let's back up for just a second because we
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
don't know each other. I'm a professor over in Ellensburg. Just a quick introduction, like who are you? What do you do? How did you get into this?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay, yeah. So my name is Merridy Rennick, and I work in career services over on the west side. So if you can kind of see the picture behind me,
Yes,
that's
the Quality Hall. It's right there.
yeah, exactly. But I also serve, actually, most of my students are online these days.
Yeah.
So I serve all online students, I serve center students, and also I'm the ITAM advisor.
So
So
you spend a lot of time on Zoom and Teams.
I spend so much time on Zoom and Teams. Yes,
Yeah.
life has changed a lot in the last few years.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So yeah, the origins, and we just talked about it a bit. The origins are really um, we know it's not just, generative AI isn't coming, it's here. And
Yeah.
I watched Terminator 2 as a kid and I love it. It's a great movie. Skynet, it's probably the reality. But I've just seen a couple simulations of kind of creating resumes or changing, job descriptions. We had a student that came up and just said, "Hey, here's my job, write me a job description." And it laid it out. So, okay, there's some neat applications. I think especially for people, we get this a lot with our HR graduates where they're really an HR department of one or of
Mm,
one or two
yeah.
and they're going, well, I've got a sexual harassment case and I'm trying to watch safety, but I need to create a job description or I need to determine, pay grades or whatever it is. So that was sort of the origins. And I'm interested in kind of the talent acquisition process. Feels like maybe a basic place to start. So what have you seen? Is anything shocking to you, or is it's just a cool tool?
Shocking. Okay. I don't think anything shocking. I think the big thing is just trying to keep up with it. I mean, it's changing so quickly. I feel like I could watch a webinar per day and I still wouldn't be able to keep up
Yeah.
with the things that it does. I just watched a webinar for career counselors last week and I was still jaw dropping. I'm like, wow, we could do that? Really?
So
Um,
cool.
so yeah, it's so cool, but it also has its limitations. So you can't just think like, oh, it's good, yes, it's going to make your life easier, but you still have to do a lot of work around it and give it really good information and double check everything. And so that's the caveat. You think like, oh, this is going to make my life so easy,
Right.
but you have to be still like a strong editor. You have to come up with a strong set of like strengths and skills going into this process.
My
Um,
my grandma told me a story when I was little about getting her first dishwasher.
mhm.
And she said, "You just wash the dishes, and then this thing, it's going to solve it. It'll wash the dishes for you." But now I have to figure out how to fix a dishwasher and what settings, and it's just a different skill set. Like the work doesn't go away, but it's a different skill set. And I'm imagining maybe that's analogous to it'll generate content, but the content isn't bulletproof. It's got to be organized, formatted, edited, all that kind of stuff. Is that close?
Yes, exactly. And that's what I
Okay.
kind of hope to work with students with is that they might just think like, oh, I'm just going to try to create this resume. But the deal is like you have to know the prompts, right?
Right.
And then where
Right.
do you get those prompts from? And who knows them? It's usually people that work with that tool a lot. They've used them, they've tried ones that work and don't work. And then hopefully you come up with a good set of prompts.
Yeah. Can you give us an example? Can we do that?
Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
I'm
Okay.
excited to see this.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay. Well, I want to start. Can I start out with kind of a caveat about
Anything.
resume and cover letters? Okay, great. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I want to start with this because, like I said, people want it to make their lives easy. They want it to make it so easy that they don't really have to do anything, and that's not how it's going to be. Not at this point, anyway. So part of the process going in when you're writing a resume or a cover letter is you really have to have a list of your strengths, your skills, your
Right.
abilities you can in conjunction to what job you're trying to
Right.
prove you can do. Yeah. So it's kind of you heard the silicon thing, garbage in, garbage out, right?
Right.
Yeah. So you have to put some good information in. The second thing I talked about was that using specific prompts, and then building on your previous queries. Sometimes AI doesn't get it right. So you have to ask it again and ask it in a slightly different way.
Okay.
So, and then of course, double check the accuracy of everything. AI is like a people pleaser. Like
It
it
is.
wants to just like, oh, well, I'm sorry, you don't have that skill. Well, we'll just make it up then, and you
Right.
look
With
on there
lots of
like,
adjectives. It'll be great.
yes, yes. It even like when I played with it with my own stuff, it's even said that I've worked places I've never worked before. So really
That's
double check
awesome.
that. I've never worked at the Institute of Art, but you put that in there. I don't know.
Right. Congratulations on your
Oh,
degree.
yeah,
Yeah.
thanks. Must have done it in my sleep. So yeah, okay, so it's kind of just showing you. Okay, so let's start with show you some things. Okay. So when I'm writing when I'm helping a student create a cover letter utilizing AI, I'm sorry, we'll start with like resume. Creating a resume using AI. Okay. So the first thing I need is a good job description.
Okay.
This is probably something that you all do in your class a lot. Let's look over job descriptions and
Sure.
yeah. So if somebody's applying for a job and that job description is super brief and doesn't have a lot of skills to lean on, it's just not going to be a good one. So use a different one. Use one that you think has similar skills. So this was for a cybersecurity position. And I went to the qualifications and it has some really good keywords. This is a good entry level one that a student coming right out of CW could apply for. So that's why I used it. So I worked with a student on this. Okay, go in.
So start with a good job description, and if the one you're applying to is not very good, find one very similar with more details.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, and to be honest, okay, this is the wrong one. I want to start with a different one. Sorry about that. Okay, here we go. All right. So, so we put the job description in. I just kind of wrote the things that the AI did.
Okay.
It created an objective statement.
So hold on. You created this or ChatGPT created this?
So this is ChatGPT's version of the resume.
Okay. So
Um,
how,
so
how did you get to this point?
yeah, so a student had a pretty good basic resume.
Okay.
And I don't remember if the student and I had built one previously, but they came in and they had a pretty decent resume to start with. Good information going in, right?
Right.
So it was ready to go in and say, I wonder what ChatGPT has to say about your resume with the job description. So I used a specific prompt for it to rewrite my existing resume to be a good fit for this job, paste it in the job description, and then put in the existing resume. And so with ChatGPT, here's some things that it did. It added an objective statement. So it was a pretty good one. I mean, it's specific enough. So objective statements are, sometimes funny that way. They have to be good or don't bother with them.
Right. They're kind of hard to write. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So, I mean, that could be a great thing to have ChatGPT help you with. Um, it added a couple skills that they didn't have on their resume that were in the job description.
They
Um,
were not in the job description?
they were in the job
They
description
were. Okay.
and it was not on the resume.
Okay.
So it was trying to help along and say, hey, you really need these two keywords because
Right.
this keeps coming up in the job description, right? And actually what it did a lot of is abbreviating their the duties that they had done in their past, which I felt, I don't know. I don't know if I would have abbreviated that much
Yeah.
because some of it was very relevant, like this security service
Right.
intern. The cashier position, abbreviate, yes, abbreviate it.
I can see that. Yeah.
Super helpful. Under their leadership, this is something that students often do. They just list, hey, I did this, but it doesn't talk about why it's important, what type of skills they learned when they were doing that leadership activity. And so it added a bullet point guessing something that they might have done.
Okay.
It was actually not bad, not a bad
Yeah.
cut. It worked. And then it added, it suggested that they should add their certifications. And that was in the job description under preferred. It said it would like some
Right.
certifications. Fortunately, it even just said, hey, list them here. And it didn't just make up a bunch, which is
That's helpful.
nice. Yeah, yeah. So,
So you opened up Chat GPT and you said, and you pasted in the resume, said,
mhm.
here's my resume, make this resume. What was the prompt?
Yeah, so the resume is, and I can always send these to you too, so they can we can send them to students. Rewrite my existing resume to be a good fit for this job and paste it in the job description. And then here is my existing resume, and
Okay,
then this
those
is the
two.
resume.
Okay, sequential.
Hmm.
Wow,
So
that's really cool.
other stuff you can do too is ask it for suggestions, which I like even more because it actually shows you, it tells you what they would change. So
Right,
the prompt would be, what would you recommend changing about my existing resume to apply for this job? And it outlines all the different suggestions. Oh, I think you should do this. You should add
right. It's almost
this.
better because then you can do it yourself and make sure it didn't cut anything. Yeah, or add. Yeah, a
Yes. Yes.
little bit more work, but yeah,
And didn't add anything that actually wasn't true. So
like the Institute of Art.
yes, exactly. Never worked there. So um So with resumes, I have to say I've just been like, nah, I don't think they're going to put me out of a job anytime soon as a career counselor because it doesn't do an awesome job, right?
Right.
But, okay, cover letters, that's a whole different story. It
Cover
actually,
letters are sort of like objective statements. They're a pain to figure out the right wording, the right tone, all that kind of stuff.
and you have to tailor one for every job you apply
Job,
for.
yeah.
That's so much work, right?
Yeah, you
Um,
see students that'll come out their senior year. We've got some that have applied to 30, 40 jobs and 30 or 40 one-page papers, basically.
yes, exactly. It's so much time. Um, ChatGPT actually does a pretty good job of this. So I'll give you an example. Pull out this one. I used that same job description and with that the same resume the student had given me. And to find my prompt. Yes, okay. So my prompt was write a cover letter that's personalized to a specific job description and my resume. So here's the specific job description, paste it in that job description, and then paste in the resume.
So is that three different entries, or that's all one entry in ChatGPT?
It was one entry,
Okay.
and so sometimes I do that all in Word first because the deal is every time you hit, if you hit enter, it starts going crazy and it starts doing its thing
Right.
immediately, right? And I really don't want like kind of half a product. I want more of a finished product.
Right.
So I try to be really specific the first time. And then if I needed to clarify things, then I start to ask it for other information. Okay. So I asked that. It gave me a sample cover letter. And luckily it didn't just like make up hiring managers that let you know, hey, this is where you put in your name,
Right.
etc. It actually wrote a pretty good cover letter.
Yeah.
It gave examples. The only thing that's funny, and I noticed this, is that it loves transition words like more, however,
Right. In
moreover.
addition,
I,
yeah.
I sometimes just take those out because it just becomes so obvious that it's an AI that wrote it.
Right. I've
So
been told transitions and adjectives, what you have to watch. They're big fans.
yes, exactly. But that's pretty easy to do. All right. When it starts out with a pretty
Right.
good first
Have the
draft,
structure down.
yeah, your
That's
job is just to
incredible.
edit it.
That's incredible. So in theory, I mean, a person could generate this resume cover letter in, I don't know, 5, 10 minutes, maybe less, and then
Yeah.
another 20, 30 minutes of editing. And that's it.
Yes. Yeah. And I think even less editing, the more experienced they become with it,
Right.
the quicker those edits are going to be. And if you're
Yeah.
having to write 30 cover letters by the end, you're probably only spending 5 minutes on that cover letter to be able to edit it.
Wow.
So,
And can you, if you say, give me a cover letter, and you get it, can you say, I don't like that one, do it again?
yes, but be specific.
What you
Say,
didn't like?
yeah, like, please provide a cover letter with additional examples.
Right. Or make
Or
it shorter or longer or something.
yeah, yeah. You don't want to just say I don't like it, put it back in
Right.
there. Be very specific, say what you want out of it. I do that with cues all the time. So
So the writing skill set is is minimized. The understanding prompts and editing skill set is what's maximized.
exactly.
Okay.
Yes. And one of the things that I say to my students, a couple things is, would you want to meet this person? So the AI doesn't always do a great job of like conveying enthusiasm or personality.
Right.
So the editing process should be something like, hey, add some personality to it.
Right.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Um, other questions?
Yeah. Is it, I don't know if you have the capacity right on a computer, can we actually see it? Like see like a small sample of this?
Sure.
I don't
Oh,
know if you're set up for
so
that. If you're not, it's okay.
yeah. So sample of doing it or just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Anything, generate a resume or a cover letter or anything like that.
Okay,
Like
yeah.
I've
Well,
also
no.
been, go ahead.
Okay, so so when I put that cover letter up, can you not see it on your side or
I saw the cover letter. I
got
meant
it?
the ChatGPT interface.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Um,
Because I've been on there half a dozen times, and this is all recent, and it's really fun. And my students are showing me stuff, and I'm like, all right, we have to uh, we have to incorporate this. There's a lot of so I've been a professor for 17 years, right? And there's a lot of discussion of, oh, this is terrible and it's cheating and all that kind of stuff. I'm thinking, man, if I'm a fresh grad, I'm an HR manager, I need to create job descriptions, or I'm totally using this. I'm not sitting down and going to onet, .com and checking out everything.
yeah. No, I mean, I was recently on a hiring committee and I could tell that the person had used an AI to write their cover letter.
Yeah,
And honestly, I didn't even say anything to the committee. I
right,
just, it was a strong applicant, and I was like, good for her,
right.
like,
And the question is it true? It's not your sentence structure. You're not hiring to be a newspaper editor. If what's
yeah,
in there is true, great. Okay.
yeah. I mean, that is definitely okay. So, um, so the only problem is okay, I'm trying to find one where I've actually just done it already because I can do it, but you're gonna have to sit there and watch me for 10 minutes do it,
No,
right?
if you have one, and it's okay if not.
Okay, so
But
let me see.
if you have an old one, that'd be great.
Yes, I'll go,
What organizations? Oh, look at that. That's cool.
yeah, I could show you a couple other things too that I've done with students, that other tools. Okay, yeah, here we go. Here's the process. It's long. Um, okay, yeah, this is what I did with a student. I put in this giant job description. Okay,
Okay.
so I said rewrite my existing resume to be a good fit for this job. And then I pasted it right in. So you
Okay.
can't even really tell the difference between my prompt and all the information that it had. And here's the existing resume, not
Okay.
formatted because it just, it pretty much unformats things. And here's the product that it gave me.
All right, man.
Yeah. So the product I showed you, I made notes on
So
just to
this is
kind
a
of,
cover letter.
this is, oh, okay. Thank you. So the first thing it did is it wrote me a cover letter. And I was like, why are
Yes.
you doing this? So I went down and said, not a cover letter, but a resume.
But you actually did initially ask for a resume.
It's
Okay,
not
this is
a
what you
cover
mean by learning the
letter.
prompt. Okay.
Yes. So I mean, the technology is good, but not great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, does it not know the difference? It's like, oh, certainly. Oops, And then I didn't even give it another prompt. It just rewrote it as a resume.
That is, but so you can't see, well, it's probably fine, but you can't see what it changed necessarily because I'm assuming some of this was in there. Okay.
Yeah, and that's why I created that draft and I
Yeah.
actually marked it all up.
Right. So save the first one, right?
Yeah. I did the two, I put them side by side and I marked the heck out of it and said like, oh, this is what it changed, this is what it did. Every bullet point, everything that I
Okay. And then
marked
you
it.
prompted this. What would you
Yes.
recommend changing? Okay.
Yeah. So that way I could see, I wanted to see the differences, like which prompt was better. Um,
Right.
I liked the changing prompt better. they weren't that different in the end product, but it gave me a little bit more advice. Like it says to align your existing resume with it, the position. You'll want to emphasize your relevant experience, skills, and projects, which is actually kind of general, but in the bottom it gets a little more
Right.
specific. Yeah. hmm So
That is awesome.
so yeah, so here's the process. And then eventually I went and asked it to write a cover letter, even though it already had done that. So, oh yeah, another thing too, don't put your name or anything in there. Looks like this person does have their name in there. So,
Don't
yeah,
put your name in there. Why?
because it, I think this came out like maybe 6 months ago. The person who had this amazing idea and original plans at some tech place, and they had like used Chat GPT to help them, and it ended up being that it was then out there in cyberspace and other people could access it. Yeah, it's then becomes part of I don't know what would that be like cyberspace intellectual property?
Yeah, I suppose that's a that's a that's a tricky one.
Yeah.
It probably depends on how angry the company's lawyers were to
hmm
go after it or not.
Yeah. So,
Okay, so cover letters, resumes, revisions, edits, all that kind of stuff, suggestions. What's is there anything, what do you think is coming? What's next? Like I'm imagining a scenario on the other side, the hiring side. I'm thinking specifically for managers right now. So I've got a friend who's good mechanic, became really good, grew. Now he's managing mechanics, right? Runs his own garage.
mhm.
And can you get a stack of resumes, paste it in to Chat GPT and say which one of these will be the best? Are we there yet?
Oh, wow. That's
This is
that's a lot of
Amazon. Amazon
trust.
had a rough scenario a while ago. They were one of the first ones that tried to do this.
Hmm.
And it was funny is the wrong word, but they found out they started hiring almost exclusively men based on the resumes because men tended to use more like power dominant words, which was
Yes.
associated in AWS with
Yeah.
better performance metrics. So it's like there's discrimination concerns, but it seems like is it close? Have you seen anything like that?
Well, a couple weeks ago, one thing I thought about, anytime you hear about AI, you think, is it going to replace me? Am I
Right,
going to be out of a job, right?
right,
And so as a career counselor, I think like, well, I definitely, how are students going to sit down and discuss their values, their interests, their
sure,
skills, their personalities? And a lot of helping students with resume is the things that they didn't put on their resume. So I
right,
could talk to them and say, tell me a little bit more about this volunteer thing that
right.
so it's helping them get more information. But a couple weeks ago, I went to this thing and they actually went and they had ChatGPT interview them for their values, interests, skills, and personality. And it was kind of creepy
Yeah,
because you think of this as very like a very humanizing process, kind of intimate.
right,
I don't think that ChatGPT did an awesome job. Like I wouldn't fire your counselor and start using them for your like mental health like questions
right.
or anything, but it did do it. And it did
Yeah.
have some thought-provoking questions. I was taken back by that, thinking,
Huh. Interesting.
hmm
Interesting. Yeah, I think there's more. So for a long time, I don't know, past several years, there's a lot of talk about AI applications in HR,
hmm
but it seemed to be talking about better algorithms, which is not right, a generative AI. Those are different things. So my head's out there in terms of like what's next? Can we submit resumes? I'm imagining when I worked at Boeing, we get 200 applicants on a job and just have someone say, give me the top 10, give me the
Yeah,
top five based on
yes.
based on what we know.
Yeah, and you can do that. But the thing is, I had a friend that worked at Boeing and he was given a design lab at the University of Washington. And I asked him, I said, okay, well, give me some advice to give to students about the applicant tracking system. And he says, oh, I don't use it. I go, you don't? He goes, oh no, I go through all 300 of those resumes. I go, why? And he says, well, I tend to prefer these qualities that these tracking systems don't
Yeah.
look for. I said, like,
Yeah.
he's like, farm workers. I go, really? Farm workers? He's like, man, he goes, they make the best engineers. They're never like, oh, I can't do this experiment. I don't have enough of this or that.
Right.
They're like, let's use this chapstick
Right.
that we have on our desk to.
Right. That's awesome. Right on. Okay. Last question.
Mhm.
What would you say are the guardrails or boundaries or maybe moral implications, maybe not, but like if you're saying to students like, okay, here's this thing, go do it. What are the warnings that you have, or do you have any?
Yeah, I think it's just the editing process. I think there's just with students, I see a lot of trust and that like, oh great, this is gonna make my life easy. I'm gonna throw all this in here and that's gonna be done. I think, that you have to read line by line and make sure it didn't
Right.
come up with anything because
Right.
that could, you could get hired and they could find out later that something wasn't true.
Right.
The second thing is there are some people that feel like it is cheating to use this. I don't think so at this point. I feel like if you personalize it, I feel like if you edit it,
Right.
but I have heard, some employers say like, I would really like them to write an original cover letter, that process. So I think you have to be a little careful if you're dealing with an employer like that. I mean, if somebody has a lot of experience, like I most of the time I can look and say, and I can ask a student, hey, did you use AI to write this?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You get good at it. You can spot it, right?
Right.
So,
What
um,
about the AI? Sorry, I said it was last question. The AI, what's it called? Like checkers, basically. So as when this, first came out and every English teacher thinks every kid's going to use Chat GPT, which probably. But they're running it through different kind of filters or systems to say like what's a percent of chance that this was written by AI? How do you feel about the validity of that? Are they helpful? Have you used them at all? Are they accurate?
I haven't, you know what? I haven't taught
Okay.
since pre-COVID. So,
Yeah.
so I haven't even used that. And I know that there's specific software for that, but to tell you the truth, I don't have a lot of experience with that because I'm not on the hiring side. I'm on the side of helping students
Right.
produce a document
Well,
for,
I'm just thinking
yeah,
if you can spot it, like you
yeah,
personally, you get a paper, like
yeah.
if you can spot it, then I'm imagining there's some pattern of language that can be identifiable somehow.
Oh yeah, definitely. And you know what? You just Google that and they'll tell you. So, I mean, there's a lot of articles written about this. They use the transition words, things like that,
Yeah.
just to know. And that I do try to help students with that in saying like, let's reread this, let's get rid of these
Right.
transition verbs.
Right.
Let's humanize this. Like tell a
Right.
story that actually comes from your heart, have an engaging lead in, that sort of thing.
Yeah. That's awesome. Merridy, thank you.
You're welcome. Well, thank you for inviting me. I
Super
appreciate
fun.
it.
And we'll
Um,
pass it out, and a million students will probably call you now. And yeah,
yeah, great. Okay, well, can I do a little pitch then, just to let them know how to get a hold of me?
right on. That'll be
Okay, yeah.
awesome.
So, I mean, hopefully most students know, but you never know. So if you just Google CW Cure Services, we have an online booking thing and you can book appointments. You can book them in person at each of the campuses. You can book for online appointments, via Zoom or a phone call, however you want to do it. Just pick what works for your schedule. And we're just excited to work with you kind of on anything. You don't even have to really know, just know I'm doing a job search. I know I need some help. I don't really
Right.
know what that looks like. We'll kind of take it from there.
Yeah, we've got Central is, I don't know if it's unique, but I've had lots of interactions with career services over here in Ellensburg, and it's really well-trained team. Like it's
Okay.
phenomenal.
Thanks for the pitch.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
No, you're awesome, Merity. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great day.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Bye.